Instagram, and now, of course, we are live on the airwaves, on the internet waves. We're back. It is episode 72, the happy hour, of course, wine for the people. I'm liking this. It's like the show that we don't take ourselves as seriously as the wines, and even then, we don't take the wines that seriously either. Guys, welcome back. Of course, it is Sunday. It's been a hell of a week. Last week was really, last week can stay. Where it is, it's a new week, new goals. New week, new goals. We just had we don't often do that. We actually just had like a sit down meeting. We talked about our week ahead so we could get aligned, which we'll let you know next Sunday how aligned we stay, how aligned we actually remain. But I mean, firstly, would you like a glass of wine?
Yes, I would.
Yes. We've got we had the amazing crew from Main and Cherry that were on the show this week, and of course the wine that I fell in love with of theirs. I think they do this really well. And when I mean really well, I mean top 3 in the country really well. I think they are very, very much underrated when it comes to Sangiovese. I think they do Sangiovese incredibly well. And so I thought, you know what, let's crack open their Sangiovese. And I want to put a massive shout out to Terry and whoever else, because he was releasing it's called the Iberica, I believe. Out of Main and Cherry, and it was completely unlabeled. And basically, it was his first attempt at a sulfur-free wine, and that is a really, really, really hard thing to do. He made one of the most delicious wines that I've tried, not just from his stable, but just in general. And I'm humbled that you would obviously take my opinion, my evidence sort of self-expression of excitement, so much so that you would actually go out and buy that guy's wines completely unlabeled. And you know what? What is a label? Seriously, at the end of the day, I think is the wine freaking tasty? It was hellishly tasty. We've had some really tasty, really, really tasty things on the show. Just even last week, the 2 standouts for me probably were that Iberica, that little. Yep. But I tell you what, the shit that Justine Henschke brought.
Yeah, the
holy crap.
Grenache, the Rhone blend that
they
did.
Yeah, a little Rhone blend that they did. That is a massive departure, isn't it, for what Henschke actually sort of... and you know the inner workings of Henschke as well. Like, that is... I'm not sure what sort of magic it would have taken, the amount of effort that would have taken to get something like that over the line and produced, because it is dainty and lean and elegant and pretty and fun. And not that their wines aren't, pretty and fun, but their wines are certainly sort of quite robust.
Yeah,
and
they're a particular style for a particular audience. And they have to continue to honour that because that's the base, right? And who else is going to do it better than they will? But the cool thing about working there, and also larger wineries, is they do have a, R&D budget, and are constantly experimenting with batches and varieties. Often the public don't hear about it because they don't get released as single bottlings. But I mean, maybe if there was something good to come out of COVID, it would be this stronger connection between food and drinks production and customers, and connecting with audiences, and maybe it does give brands like that an opportunity to release these craft bottling.
Well, that's actually a really cool question for you guys sitting at home. You've obviously seen what we've gone and done, during this tempestural time, which I believe is is legitimately the word, tempestural time. And obviously we've gone to things like live streaming, taking a conversation directly to you guys, and building a little bit of a sense of a wine community, having a bit of fun with it. What other brands, and it doesn't need to be wine.
Well, we're always interested in brands completely outside of our field. Yeah,
so have you noticed anything, for you guys personally, I'm not sure what you guys are into. You guys can be into whatever you want, really. But what have you guys noticed at home that brands have done during COVID? And the pandemic and the sort of global economic shutdown that have sort of made you guys super impressed, that have made you guys go, actually, I could have a different relationship with this brand right now. I could have something either maybe it's a little bit more intimate, or maybe you've noticed stuff from other brands that you were just like, you know what, I'm not going to support that brand anymore. I just think that's an absolutely terrible thing to do. And you know what? They've finally shown their true colours, and I want to know from you guys what you guys have experienced. But of course, straight onto the comments: Justin, Aiden, Jimmy, Wendy, Kerry, Unico, Ruth, Christina, Adam. Mate, thank you. Audio gate is a little too aggressive. Laura's voice maybe lower the threshold.
Thank you, Justin.
Laura's a very quiet individual. I will hopefully bring that up. Hopefully that's going to exist in hopefully an all right space. Let us know about the audio, of course, because we're constantly tailoring. It's a very new system. If you're actually chiming in on Instagram, you'll actually note that there's a little funny fuzzy thing up here as opposed to something over there, and we're trying to cut out basically a lot of the background noise as well. Best stay aligned enough to some of your homegrown pack. I know it's not your wine brand, but love the apple.
Paula, they're already pre-packed. We did it on Friday. They'll be getting shipped tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To be honest, that's it's something as well. Like, of course, we do have two distinct things that we do on a daily basis. Of course, like Unico, Zelo, and of course Harvest is a bit of a something from that applewood and ochre.
Yeah.
Ochre, if you can sort of see, not you guys on Facebook, but definitely you guys on Instagram can see the big ochre sort of emblem above us. Ochre's always sort of flown a bit under the radar, I think, for a lot of people. It's a bit hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, it's unusual if you're not, I guess, used to making cocktails at home, and it's not typically something you would drink on its own. So it does take a little bit more exploring. But I'm surprised it actually sells, because we also do a coffee liqueur, Carter's, which I often think is more approachable. But ochre has its really distinct, passionate following, and even during COVID, it's sustained as well.
We've said, I guess, use this period to be able to build a little bit of ochre, I guess, from like a branding perspective, is very much a ochre Aussie kind of
bit cheeky
piss take.
Yeah.
I think larrikinisms like a really cool.
Yeah.
We're constantly trying to explore different parts of Australian culture that we find really endearing, and I know we've just not had enough time. We've not had either a big enough team or the structure in place to be able to do that. And of course, today, for those who are on the ochre mailing list or the applewood mailing list, would have gotten a little mail out. We're doing something called the homegrowny, because it is, well, I believe it's been delayed actually, because Negroni Week is actually owned by Campari.
Okay.
And they're the ones, and they actually, it's not, whilst it is more than, it's kind of obvious, it is a big deal for Campari in a big way that Campari can sell more of their products, but they do some really good stuff with that. They do a lot of charity work, they do a lot of really good things, and they're sort of very encompassing into other, and very welcoming to other brands as well. They do things right. We really do love the guys out at Campari. And of course, with everything that's going on, I believe they've actually delayed Negroni Week. They've actually called it off. But we thought, you know what, screw it. We're still going to have a bit of fun with this.
Yeah.
Homegrowny Week. Let's do all Aussie ingredients and have a bit of fun. So that just came out, and we've got a slew of orders. There's not actually a lot left, to be honest. We only made 100 of them. So that is definitely. It's taken us a little bit by surprise that we're building the profile of ochre over COVID. The difference in response from Air New Zealand and Virgin was marked. Virgin was all corporate BS, and Air New Zealand very authentic and got my respect.
That's great.
It is also, and Air New Zealand is.
Yeah, because I remember
really good
them
that way.
for their safety video.
The duck? Is it the duck or the goose or something? They've got like a, or is it Kiwi? No, it's not a Kiwi. I don't think it's a Kiwi.
I thought it was a song. I thought it was a really popular song.
No, but they've got like a character. They've got like a little animated animal.
Oh.
And I didn't think it was a Kiwi. I actually don't think it's a Kiwi. I think it's like a ducks flying south kind of deal. I think it's something like that. And so they did the Men in Black thing as well, where they got the
that must be the one that I'm thinking of.
They got the All Blacks on. They had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
Virgin, I know for their one was doing something with supercars, which was kind of cool. But of course, I think maybe Virgin is. I mean, from a corporate perspective, they are legitimately in a lot of strife at the moment, and it would make complete sense. That they're probably sort of focusing more on the corporate side of things when so much tumultuous things are going down. This is from Deb Wilson, a plethora of brands or identities have gone out of their way to engage with a missing audience, using social media to new levels. Yeah. You guys lead the way. Thank you. That's awesome. Maggie Beer, Adelaide Fringe, the Art Gallery. Very cool. Very cool. Can I come and get a homegrown pack tomorrow from Gumaraka to take back to Shetland on Tuesday?
Unfortunately not. Sorry, Jimmy. We're doing it online only because the pack actually has T-shirts in it. and because they were different sizes, it was going to be too tricky to hold them up here and at our warehouse. But you can buy it online and do a click and collect, and it'll be available at Gumarack a couple of days later to pick up. But we won't be able to get it to you tomorrow. Unfortunately,
I'm terribly sorry there, Jimmy. We're working through that, and that's another thing that sort of really highlighted to us is this concept of click and collect, and we have two. So we have a warehouse as well as up here, and as you know, we're trying to find a permanent home for Unico Zelo as well, because when you come and visit, it's very much Applewood focused. So we're trying to find that home, so we'll have another place, and the idea, I just think that customers should be able to navigate to a website and come and visit the home of it, the mecca of it, and be able to pick up their order. I think it's something we've never really kind of considered before, never really done, but logistically it's actually quite a, you know, tell you what, you can pay for software to do it, but it's like 30 grand a month. You know, it's ridiculous. So yeah, if there are any like techie people, coders out there, I want to hear from you. It's a goose. It's a goose.
No, but then the next person said it's a duck.
A talking duck, Brian Brown. Well, it's definitely Brian Brown. I know that for sure. And it's a talking duck. But I think I'm pretty confident it's a goose.
We'll find out.
Because well, if not, it's a very big duck. A very big white duck. Well, you missed out, but mine will definitely.
Thank
you, Paula. No worries, Jimmy. Thank you so much for the support, irrespective, mate. We really do appreciate it. But of course, it is. I need to get some power to my laptop somewhere.
Cool.
Otherwise, we're gonna shut off.
Justin, the Sanj is delicious. Obviously, I've had a few sips now, but I liked it straight away because I thought the color was beautiful, like a light-handed Sanj. It's got a
lot more lift. It's a lot higher and brighter and fresher, as I'm sort of remembering of what it used to be. But it could also be, what was the vintage? 2019. Okay, drought vintage, could have been picked a little bit earlier to try to get away from the impacts of the heat. Yeah. But guys can have a bit of gander there. I really like they're just, oh man, they really are doing an incredibly great job at not just the varieties, the wine quality, and you can actually see as well, it's unfiltered.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to get that level of clarity, it's actually quite a tough thing to do.
Yeah, and they even said casually on the show the other day that they bottle. But that's actually a really important thing, is the fact that they bottle themselves.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of small producers have that capability, but it means that you can do these, you know, a lot of bottling lines might not necessarily do an unfiltered wine because there's some risk of contamination and re-fermentation. But when you keep that in-house, you're able to do it yourself.
This sort of gets me to, I've got a couple of course, you know, this is Q&A questions, and we've got a couple banked up from the last week as well. Some intended for us, some not intended for us, but we thought we'd have a crack at being able to answer them anyway. But this here is actually, there is one particular question that I wanted to ask, which was who are the wineries that you, and this is not pre-scripted, by the way, Laura doesn't even know that I've typed these up before. But who are the wine producers that you're constantly looking at? Because I know the ones that I constantly look at. But quite often, you know, well, I'm a loud voice, and you know, yours is constantly drowned out. Who are the people that you're constantly looking at wines and kind of going, damn, they're really nailing it? Because I think these are high on my agenda. Yeah,
definitely. I don't know, a mix. I probably, if I was to sit down and look at a wine list, I often try to actually try more conventional varieties, but by a producer that is maybe a little bit more avant-garde. Like, I guess the Vanguardist wines are probably a good example of that. Like,
very true.
So classically trained winemakers that are using those skills to do something out of the norm. I find that interesting because it's a bit of a trap when you're classically trained just to do things by the rule book. And when they step outside of that, whether it's a different variety that they're doing or skin contact or early release reds, as well as quite a newer style of wine, I always try and get something like that.
It's interesting because Mickey Downer's well and truly within that. He was on the show this week.
Yeah, and I guess this is the other category is producers that are so incredibly reliable. Like I know that I could get any of his wines on a list, and I'd be happy. Doesn't matter if it's Pinot Noir, doesn't matter if it's Chardonnay. Even if I'm not in the mood for a Chardonnay, I can get his Chardonnay and really love it. So producers that have consistently over time just dedicated themselves to getting really good at something.
Yeah.
Are really good at their wine style. And even, I guess what's hard is that if you have a small vintage or if you start gaining popularity, there's always a temptation to produce more, and the risk of that is that you end up compromising your ethos. But producers that have decided to stay small and really commit to that style, I think is so impressive.
It's actually Main and Cherry is firmly within that category for me. What brands could you? I mean, you called out Vanguardist. I think that is an amazing example. We haven't seen their wines on the show, and in fact, they actually came in and bought a bunch of wines yesterday.
Yeah.
Before I think their sort of last weekend before they get opened back up. Any other brands that come to mind that you just like when I see that on a list?
Well, Kerner, when I think about Adelaide Hills, would be the other one.
They do a really great job.
And I guess the common thread there is they have quite a tight lineup. We do
many different things.
We do so many different SKUs, but there are brands that only do 5 or 6, and you know that they're always going to be good. I also love like Tasmanian Pinot. So whenever I see Tasmanian Pinot on a list, doesn't matter who the producer is, I would always try that. Yeah. I'm a massive fan of Mac Forbes. Yeah. Mac Forbes royally
does it.
Mac Forbes, Luke Lambert is the other one that, again,
very
classically
consistent.
Trained, so consistent, conventional varieties, but just blow me away every time.
Well, speaking of the guys out at Vanguardist opening up, one of the questions that we had this week were, when are you guys going to open up SA so we can come down and visit?
Well, I don't know when SA is going to open.
I don't know when SA is going to open.
The bar is opening.
So this coming Friday, I believe.
Friday.
Yeah. So we only just got the ability to be able to increase our capacity to 20 people and be able to serve alcohol without food, without a substantial meal.
So no food.
That starts on Monday. That is, so basically the ability to be able to have a G&T without having to buy a schnitty with a side of chips, of which we can't serve a schnitty with a side of chips. We can only serve really great G&Ts. So we will be opening here formally from Friday. And as this starts to trigger, actually, we should be sort of very, we'll let you guys know, especially, and we know that not everyone, hopefully, many of the people that usually watch the show are out trying to support, in their own home states, because we are sort of getting to that point where everything's starting to open up. And we're sort of seeing this as well on our end, obviously, with the show. And the intent of this show was to be able to build a bit of wine community during the shutdown when you couldn't go out. And support these people, and these people need the support. They need it now more than ever. So, as of basically as we progress through the next week, we still have a show every single day next week, and then from the week after, it'll only be twice to 3 times a week.
So that's from the 8th of June.
Yeah, so from the 8th of June, and we're talking with a bunch of some still very, very amazing guests actually for the next week as well, to see us in. But we have realised, of course, just how fun this is, and we think that taking an hour out of even your days once a day, and thank you so much for everyone that's actually supported us and actually jumped on board with this. Is quite a bit of an ask as well for you guys. So we're deciding to up the ante with some of the guests, up the ante with the production quality, and offer it in 2 days. At the moment, we're thinking, and we'd love your feedback with this, really would appreciate the feedback, but we're thinking the 2 days that you absolutely need wine is a Monday and a Wednesday, that you can't go out. Sometimes, Monday, maybe you want to have a glass of wine, because Monday's a pretty hectic day, right?
Oh man, Mondays, honestly.
It's the worst.
It's the worst. It's the leftover. It's all the things you didn't get done the week before, plus all of your emails, plus it's the first day that everyone wants to see you, and they also want to get a jump on their week, whether it's people that work here or people that work outside. I'm sure everyone's in the same boat, no matter what industry you work in. But Mondays,
is by
so
far.
hard.
So we're thinking that, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of you guys might be sitting at home going on a Monday, hey, look, I really like a drink, but maybe it's a little bit awkward or inappropriate to go and ask your mates, hey, look, I know we only caught up like 3-4 days ago, but do you want to go catch up again? Do you want to go out to another bar again? And if you have those mates, keep those mates. Definitely go out. But of course, hospitality as well, and the ability for us to be able to bring up hospitality here, and we really like to showcase people. Also, aside from winemakers, but hospitality staff,
like
sommeliers.
last night.
Yeah, exactly right. He actually ran. I think he ran back into work after this. So he was he was rocking and rolling. And of course, the second day we're thinking is Wednesday. Of course, everyone needs wine on a Friday, but we believe that you know, you should be going out and supporting the myriad of different small bars, pubs, restaurants on a Friday, and with your mates, you know, face to face. You know, you got to go catch up with them. So you don't really need us. I think maybe on a Monday and a Wednesday you might need us comparatively a little bit more. But definitely Monday and Wednesday is what we're got to miss my daily fix. Well, Christina, thank you. To be honest, it's also my daily fix. Like Laura notes, my mood starts to pick up as 5 o'clock in Adelaide time anyway, inches slowly closer. Please keep it live, not pre-recorded. Sharon, I guarantee you we're going to keep it live. In fact, when we did the Australia.com takeover, I was very fervent
about not pre-recording,
yeah, because you guys want to see when I forget to plug the power into my laptop, when, you know, I might have a few too many and say something that could potentially give me a cease and desist note in the future. I think it's thrilling, and I think it's real, I think it's authentic, and I think it's a little bit like talkback radio, but talkback video. I enjoy that. I want to be able to find a way that we can get you guys more like engaged video wise. If we can have like a big set of screens so we can actually see you guys, I think that would be really fun. Tuesday's the worst. Wednesday's hump day and easy to go out. Tuesday is the worst day. Tuesday's
also the worst day.
Tuesday's a pretty bad day. Tuesday is one of the ugly duckling days.
Tuesday is the worst day. I'll tell you why, because I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. Is that Tuesday you don't have like the positive and freshness of Monday.
Yeah.
Like you're not telling people how your weekend was anymore. So Tuesday, and it's also the furthest day from Saturday.
Oh, that thought never occurred to me. That's going to make this Tuesday really suck for me.
Yeah.
Terry's just chimed in. Hey, beautiful people, no merch today. Nope, because it's casual Sundays. We're going to do Q&As. Terry, we actually did acknowledge you earlier on though. And your amazing support of Main and Cherry Wines, of course. We're jumping on their Sangiovese at the moment. Very impressed, mate. Seriously, and guaranteed, it means the world to those guys. That level of support. So thank you very much.
And I think Deb before said about taking it on the road. Maybe you can take it on the road.
Yeah, so we are thinking about, and talking about things like as well, sort of tying in Sharon as well. Hope it stays real, not too much production that it loses fun with a live show. We're going to be doing some pre-recorded stuff, but it won't be like streamed live. It'll be uploaded to YouTube, and it's going to be they're going to be fun. We're going to take things like shit wine inventions. I mean, I would love to be able to like spend a bit of time properly filming something about a review of a shit wine invention and just kind of taking the piss out of ourselves a little bit, only for like 2 or 3 minutes. Something or other. So they're going to happen, but this is also definitely going to happen. I think it's the thing that started this. And if this can be permanent and grow, and we do. I mean, look, we do have requirements to travel, right? You know, we do have. It would be for me. I just think it would be really freaking cool to rock up with a whole bunch of like camera equipment. When we go to places like San Francisco or Nashville. But like, hey, we're going to take over your cool little natty wine bar and we're going to do something. And, hey, it'll be at the complete wrong time for you guys, but I just think it'll be fun, captivating, and just a little bit silly. And I think you kind of miss a bit of that.
To show a venue or a group of people that
I'll do it in Australia.
Come on the show.
Like 100% of people, we've had nearly 60 guests. 100% have come from this state.
Oh man, imagine if we could do if we could do Sydney for a week or Brisbane for a week.
Totally. We could do Queensland week. Mango week. That would be fantastic. If you're a shift worker, so need a wine at the weekend, just trying to try to keep a semblance of normality. Trust me. I like the Monday, Wednesday plan.
Shift work is tough, Paula. Really,
really tough. And we actually were contemplating how could we how could we actually stream twice a day? That sounds absolutely nuts.
Like a northern hemisphere and a southern hemisphere.
Or for shift workers as well. Your daily broadcast has been wonderful, lots of fun, learned lots about wine and junk food matching, so twice a week would be great. And that's cool. And I think to be honest, we could really plan those out. We could actually really think carefully about this. And it may seem as a surprise, may come to a surprise to you guys, there is not a lot of thinking that goes on these shows. There is literally like, we throw a lot of this shit together pretty quickly.
Not when you're on the show, but to like credit where credit's due, you spend, an hour or so setting up every day, and often on the weekends you're tweaking things to try and make it better based on feedback and comments. And I've got photos on my phone which I'll post in a few weeks of day one of the show.
Oh no.
And then progressively you can see, and anyone that's come into the Zelo recently will see the additional lights and different pieces that you've added to try and improve it. And then obviously the sound has been a little bit challenging this week, but that's because we're in the process of navigating a new piece of equipment. And
it's fun for me because it's like, I'm not an audio engineer. I literally just watched a shitload of YouTube videos to try to figure this stuff out on the fly. But I'm really enjoying the challenge. I just think it's a lot of fun for me. Hopefully it's fun for you guys as well. I'm in Melbourne, and amateur chef worker Wendy Davidson, and this is where like the pre-recording sort of things, and of course when we do hit the stop broadcasting button, it does get uploaded as like a permanent thing. Whatever you guys decide, I'll still be tuning in whenever I can. And once the C word drink is over, I'll be up regularly annoying you guys and everyone I have met along this journey.
Good. Thank you, Terry. We'd love to have you.
And if you haven't had the pleasure of meeting Terry, it is indeed a pleasure. It isn't. We might. Terry has. I mean, Terry is as Terry does. Terry has a persona for all the people that are interstate that don't know Terry, but we have indeed met Terry, and not just that, but Stephen Terhorst has met Terry. And a range of other people as well. And it's Terry, you're an absolute fucking champion, mate. Thank you. I'm also Sheffield, nothing like 7 a.m. glass of wine. Am I right?
Whatever gets you through.
To be honest, the last 3 weeks, I've also been doing, like you guys, because it doesn't live stream to Facebook, you wouldn't have been obviously able to see it. But I've also been here at either like 5 a.m. or 7 a.m. Drinking wine. Yes, I have been drinking wine at 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. Doing Zoom tastings and trainings with sommeliers in at the moment predominantly in the US, so across New York and Maryland, Washington State, and London actually. Wine Time London, if you're chiming in, I know it's early morning your way. I know you always chime in via Instagram. Hope you're well. But yeah, no, we've been. Like when I say my liver's in a state, I mean it. To show great bars and venues, and I think there's a lot of the owners, restaurateurs, and bar owners. I think would be really stoked to be able to have us in here. So we're very stoked. It's great setup. We saw what we dropped by last week. And what did you think, Jimmy? Because like a lot of people sort of rock up and they're like, especially guests, like, wow, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm seeing it. And we're just like, mate, it's just a bar. like it is not. But it is, I think, disorienting because I think when you see it on the screen, like we've been very particular with the placement of things.
Yeah, well, I think it's that you don't, because on the screen you can only see the two of us, but there's actually all this peripheral equipment. And that's probably what surprises people when they walk in, is that it is just the two of us sitting here, but there's so much surrounding equipment to make it all work.
Please do a Sangiovese, we'll love you forever. It was a question, a statement more so. We have played around with Sangiovese this year. I believe that came from Oliver Parrish as well. We have played around. Whether we do it as a single variety,
we will.
Says the winemaker. Don't even need marketing.
We will.
She's so confident. It's that good.
Yeah, I've been. Yeah, true.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited.
I've been wanting to do it for
a while,
ages, 5 or 6 years. But of course, we're super dedicated to Narrabla, which is awesome. But I think the next thing for us would be Sangiovese. Yes,
and I've come around to Sangiovese. I've come around to pretty much everything. Like Barbera, I wasn't a fan of. I like what Barbera does to Nebbiolo more than straight Barbera.
True.
Sangiovese, it's sort of like Pinot Noir in the Adelaide Hills, like finding deep, complex, herbaceous and ethereal styles of Pinot Noir are so hard to find in the Adelaide Hills. They do exist.
Yeah.
They are few and far in between. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that have fallen on their own sword trying to make that style of Pinot Noir in the Adelaide Hills and just missed so... And it's the same thing with Sangiovese, actually. We've been saying for 40 years, Sangiovese has this incredible potential in our country, and you think in 40 years, we would have figured that out by now. And I really do think the way that sort of Adelaide Hills Pinot was gone, light, fragrant, easy drinking, very approachable in their youth. I think Sangiovese in this country is very much like that, with respect to a few select key producers that do an outstanding job with long élevage and stuff like that. But for me, it's the playfulness of Sangiovese in South Australia that is just... That's why I like things like Colorino, those great varieties that are just juby and delicious and doughy and fun.
Yeah, so Brendan works in the realm of varieties that don't even exist in Australia. I'd love to make Frappato. I'd love to make Colorino.
I did appreciate, though, the comment last night, tempestic is so close to bombastic, so drink, I owe you one, Terry.
And it is actually a word, you confirmed it's actually a word.
No, I didn't actually confirm, but tempestural actually sounds much better than tempestic. I'm pretty confident tempestic is well and truly incorrect. So this one came from Catherine. Can you explain what you're calling texture? This is, I think, when we were on the
Great question.
Valerie on Best.
Yeah, because we talk about that all the time.
Texture. How would you describe? Let's get a little bit basic, because I think this is getting basic. It's a basic question, but it's a really helpful one.
Well, I'll start with white wine. Although I know, I think maybe it was Sam Scott the other night talking about texture of red wines, and like the tannin and.
Fuck, he's saying going fast around the corner is just going to stick with me. Oh, this little wine that's going real fast around the corner.
Yeah.
That's good fun.
So texture in white wines is like it's sort of an oily mouthfeel that you get. So something like, say, Vermentino or Riesling are very high acid and really streamlined down your palate. Like there has this line of lemon zest down the middle of your tongue. Whereas something that's a bit more textural like Fiano or Chardonnay is a little bit richer, more oily. And that can come about for a few different reasons, but Chardonnay, most commonly, that texture comes from oak and lees and aging. Wines that have age tend to be a little bit heavier. Can also come from alcohol, that, I guess, heavy palate. This kind of glycol ethanol effect from the alcohol. And then for our Fiano that we produce, it can also come from skin contact. So that's time on skins before the wine is actually fermented.
My way of describing texture in the most basic way that I could possibly describe it is, it's the difference between water and milk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know how milk coats your palate, water cleanses your palate. That's pretty much that. The reality is there aren't many wines that coat your palate like milk. Typically, they do have a lot of oak in them because oak is a lactone. Oak is literally like the same molecules that your palate perceives milk, and a milk is a massive exaggeration of this effect. But oak, vanillin, these molecules are what they're classed as lactones, and that's how they feel like lactic acid, and it really is quite a I say words like globular and a bulbous effect on the palate because it's just a little bit unhindered. Acidity is like the opposite of that. Like mineral water. Quite often people will say, oh, this wine's a very mineral. And that is a very contentious term in the wine industry because they're like, what makes it mineral? Is it coming from the soil? And to be honest, my personal belief on this is very simplistic. It is very much, does it taste like mineral water? Because mineral water has that kind of like puckering metallicness to it. And every time I taste wines that are mineral, it feels like I'm drinking the wine version of mineral water.
Yeah.
And I go, it's mineral. People are like, oh yeah, it is. I'm like, okay. Once people started to agree with me, I just assumed I was right. Why would I assume anything else? Thanks for the heads up, Christina. You're being our producer for this evening. All right, we're halfway through, Laura, and of course this is the one time of the week that you get to play blind tasting. Would you like to select a bottle off the back wall? I'm all sort of, ooh, geez, they've done really well where they sort of hide the corks and stuff. All right, so you're going to turn around. All right. What are you guys drinking at home while I'm cracking into this? I want to know what you guys are seeing out the rest of your weekend with. Oh, this one's going to be fun. Oh, that's really cool. Oh. What do we got here? What do we got? Give me half a second, Law. I'm gonna have to brush up on this one.
Alright.
Because I think last time we did this, I royally stuffed it. Well, that's interesting. All right, you may turn around.
Alright.
Now, I did make a bit of a mess.
Oh.
It had everything to do with the paper.
And we don't have anything.
It's fine. Done. So firstly, is it red or white?
Red.
Why is that?
It smells like it doesn't smell floral. It smells like berries, and it's got a little bit tannin, a lot though.
You're correct. It is red. Is it old world or new world?
To be honest, tasting it, I would have said New World, but given that you weren't sure about the wine region, I'm guessing it's Old World.
I thought that was gonna. In my head, I was like, "Wow, I'm taking way too long to be able to determine exactly what it is." You are definitely correct. It is well and truly
but
Old World.
But it tastes like very young and fresh, and often Old World, I would choose Old World because it's got like a rusticity or dustiness to it. But this is quite fruit forward actually, and clean.
There's a slight dustiness to this. I think you definitely pick dustiness on this. All right, is this from France, Italy, or Spain?
If it's Italian, I'd be very interested where it comes from. I think it's probably French.
You are correct. It's definitely French. All right, so the region's going to give this away.
Okay.
The region's going to give this away. So I think it might be wise to jump straight to variety.
All right.
Because it is a blend. It is a blend of two varieties. So I'm going to give you 4, and you have to choose from the 2.
Choose which 2. Okay.
Okay. So Grenache, Pinot Noir, Syrah, or Gamay.
Ooh. Could be all of those. Well, they're going to be in pairs. So I would assume it's either a Grenache Shiraz or it's a Pinot Gamay. Pinot Gamay sounds weird thing to do.
Have a taste.
What it tastes
what
like.
What does it taste like? What are you picking up from this particular wine? Because I don't want to lead you astray, because I'm doing the guessing thing. But what are you seeing in the wine? You said berries. There's tannin, but not that much. That's what you've said.
Yeah.
What about the acidity? What are you seeing about the acidity of this wine?
Pretty high for red.
Even French red?
No, well, no, that's where I'm getting stuck.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. Shiraz Grenache. No, that's a weird blend.
Weird blend?
Yeah,
that's a Shiraz dominant blend from the Rhone.
Yeah, I know, but it just doesn't taste like that. I'm gonna go with that. That's my gut.
Unfortunately not.
Oh.
Unfortunately.
Is it a Pinot Gamay?
This is a Gamay Pinot.
Oh, what? Stupid blend.
Gamay is like Pinot with a little bit more tannin, I guess, is a really basic way that you could do it.
I've never seen one before. I don't think I've ever seen a wine that's a blend of those two varieties.
I've had this one. I'm pretty confident you've had this wine before as well. And I actually have never known the varieties that go into this.
Right.
I just.
It's delicious.
I think that's the really cool thing about this wine. So, do you think this wine has come from a small producer or a large producer?
Large.
Why do you say it's come from a large producer as opposed to a small?
It's just so clean. Like, I feel like they've made this for a while.
You're absolutely right. This is a cooperative wine.
Cool.
It's a cooperative wine, and it's actually pretty cool. It's from Saint-Pourçain, which is in the dead smack middle of France. Right. Because this is... Do you have an idea on vintage? Would you take a stab? I'm not going to give
18?
you options. Spot on.
Yeah.
This is La Facelle. La Facelle, which is a cooperative wine. So it's a wine that's made by basically a bunch of farmers together, and they just chuck in a whole bunch of grapes.
It is very fun.
This is, and it is, I think this is not an expensive one. This is like $20 retail in Australia, if you can find it. Really impressed with that.
Oh, is this the bagasse thing you've been talking about?
Noma cork. So,
Noma cork. Yeah, cool. Oh, 100% recyclable.
100% recyclable. Yeah, very, very cool. So check this out. So this is the bagasse classic green. So this is bagasse is the byproduct of sugarcane production after the sugarcane has been pressed, and they turn it into this pretty amazing little product here. And every single one is completely numbered. Very, very cool. I mean, it's something that I wouldn't mind exploring maybe for us, just to see, you know, for some things. But I think it's a very predictable closure. But then this here is the wine itself. Very fun. Very fun. I know a bit of a cheeky story about this wine. And this is actually really cool. You guys might really enjoy this. La Facelle, I believe, I don't know what the exact translation is, but I believe it means the rope or the knot in French.
Well, there is a rope on the front of it. So.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's really cool. That's really, really cool. In fact, that there, so it's what they call a vin de soif, which is just basically an easy drinking wine. But basically it came from like bistros and we've been to those Italian bistros. You guys probably have as well, where you sit down and they just start coming out and pouring out jugs of wine. You know, and
order a carafe.
Order a carafe, and what they do is you might order like literally, it could be like a 3 or 4 liter carafe. You're like, that's a lot of wine, but they have this rope with knots in it, and they basically at the end, once you're done drinking, they kind of dunk it.
Oh, see how much you've had.
Yeah, and you pay by the knot.
Oh, that's so cool.
And typically it was just a cooperative wine that's easy drinking and super fun, just like that. And that's how they do it. And you'd pay by the level that you would that you drink from. I think it's great.
I love it, and I love the label. Like
every year it changes. There's a different artist, and it's the artist for what's the French? There's the French publication. The guys that were
a little bit controversial.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
Je suis.
Yeah, one of the viewers will tell us. I'm sure.
Yeah, one of the guys. You know, the guys that were embroiled in the whole. They decided to I think paint, draw. Wasn't Allah. It was.
It.
Like one of the prophets.
Some Middle
Muhammad.
Eastern
I think it was like one of the prophets. They decided to draw it, and it was like quite insensitive, I think, and it really incensed a lot of Islamic sort of hatred to je suis something like that, and the guy went absolutely nuts, killed a bunch of people. But Charlie Hebdo, it was Muhammad.
Yes.
Yeah, Hebdo. Yeah, Charlie Hebdo. So, so the same artist every single year changes, completely different one, which I think is kind of cool. I like when brands do that. So for you, Laura, question: is it about the label or about the wine?
Well, this was a good example because it was like all three elements coming together. I really enjoyed the wine, and then I thought the label was really fun. You said it was what, $25, but then you also knew about the rope story.
Yeah.
Like it's all it has to be all of those things.
So there's and this is what marketers will say, the word narrative. There's a narrative to this. It's not just a label, and it's not just the wine, but there's the things that the little network that links what you visually see with what you actually taste.
Well, and even I can spend 12 or 18 months crafting a wine, but at the end of the day, if it goes into a bottle that is not representative at all of the intention of the wine or the spirit of the vineyard, then it's never going to get to the right customers. So they're the same thing. Like you can't have one without the other. A label and a wine have to match the intention of what you're trying to achieve.
I couldn't agree more. I literally couldn't agree more. I think you've just taken the words out of my mouth.
Ooh. First time for everything.
Mel Sinclair, Oliver's trying to go Tempranillo is what Mel's on, because my Unico order is yet to arrive, and I'm terribly sorry if Ozpost has dropped the ball on that one. But I'm really glad though that you're watching it with the auto captions, because I'm yet to experience the joy that is the auto captioning feature of Facebook. But I'll do that. Just check it out. Jericho Fiano, Karen, thank you so much for chiming in. Mancherry Tempranillo. Oh man, you guys are drinking. Austrian Pet Nat Rosé. Aiden.
Oh man.
Damn. Like,
Nice.
I think Aiden might possibly be winning the BLE award tonight. Bannockburn Chardonnay, Sauv Blanc Riesling blend. Sharon. That's close on big label energy as well. Bannockburn is very impressive. What vintage is it, Sharon? Because that was made by Michael, I forget his last name, who was an amazing winemaker, New Zealand guy. He's actually gone back to NZ to do some incredible shit there too. Also made a whole bunch of wine in acacia barrels, and it was like really like not
nice.
kosher. It was very, very cool. 2018 La Ficelle Fab Bottle.
Oh wow, thank you for all the comments.
Thank you so much for all the comments. 2014 Glandor Tempranillo.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, you guys are drinking a bit of Tempranillo out in the crowd tonight. I'm very impressed, very impressed. That's the power of the cellar door though. Talking about the narrative, bringing the label and the sort of wine itself together. I think having human there. Do you reckon what's better? I mean, I already know the answer to that, but I think there's something special in seeing the human interaction to something. And I know I'm a bit of an animated character because I get openly excited about shit that I find really tasty and really interesting. What has been the difference? Because you guys, of course, can't go out to cellar doors at the moment. No one really can. And then seeing this on video, seeing us taste wine on literally an online medium. How does that differ? There's certain things, I think, aspects that you can control when you come to a cellar door. Things like the smell, things like the music, things like the warmth.
Yeah.
There's certain things, but if you're in the comfort of your own home, you can choose those things. Of course, you have music playing through the speakers that we particularly chose. This is like a weird movie magic thing, and Ruth and Aiden got to actually experience this last week. There is no music playing here right now, and we're trying to find a way to be able to encapsulate a particular experience. It's an interesting one, but
Well, and it is interesting because throughout COVID, a lot of the conversation in the wine industry has been about, transitioning your business from cellar door. Like there are a lot of wine businesses that at least 50% of their income would come from their cellar door. And once you get rid of that, the only alternative, and the alternative that's easy to action on the timeline that we had, was digital and online and these live tastings. But the conversation now is whether can you replicate the cellar door experience digitally? And does the cellar door experience is it still going to have value in the modern world? And is the fact that it's so rare, does that make it more valuable?
I think there's so much scope for cellar doors, and I mean like the traditional style cellar doors, to innovate and do some really cool shit, and just make wine really fun and engaging and captivating.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be the same old like I cringed, and the number of people that I've actually spoken to in the last couple of months that have said the exact same thing. Like they just cringed when every cellar door was just like, you know what, we're just going to sell really small bottles, little taster, test tube things to people, and then we're going to do the same thing we always do, just via digital means. And I'm going to tell you about the story and the backstory. Like, there's something about actually seeing someone really get into their shit, really get super excited about something. And we found obviously an avenue into things like, better with bubbles, carbonate some wine. Let's review some shit wine inventions. Let's do some junk food wine pairing. Let's find any way that you can't replicate the cellar door experience, but make it really blind tasting games. I think is a fantastic, that gets the conversation less about this is the wine and this is our backstory, to fuck the wine, fuck the backstory. Let's talk about flavor. Let's talk about the thing that actually you care about, you give a shit about. So that brings me to my next question. What's your take on restaurants? This is talking about people that impose an artistic view, plays are customer centric. What's your take on restaurants, and we've had them on here, that are steadfast in their approach to showcasing their artistic intent versus changing their entire model to be respondent to customers?
It's a hard question because we've personally battled with it with our own business. And then we've also had both sides of it on the show. And I think what Luke said last night about if you're going to stick to your guns about doing something, it's that you don't do it with arrogance, but you're doing it because you know that's what you're good at, and you know there are a group of people that really like that part of what you do. And if look, Brendan, you don't like that I make, I don't know, fur or whatever, but I'm going to tell you where you can get what you want.
Yeah.
So that's the best way it's been described to me.
You said fur as in faux, as in
fur.
Yeah, okay, cool. Laura doesn't make fur. That would be weird.
It's when, I think it's when someone is so strict on, we're only going to do offal. Like something bizarre, and then they get feedback from and unfortunately some people are so creative and they're just too early. Like, how many ideas have we seen over the last 10 years and restaurants that we've been to? Eau
de vie de lis, do you remember that? We distilled the lees off Zabibo to be an eau de vie de lis, which is actually a legitimate drink in Germany.
Yeah, but look, Australia was not ready for it. It's all right. We will still be here when you are. We just still like, obviously we speak about Pinot on the show, and we made a whole bunch of Pinot, which we then distilled because we were like, oh, a whole bunch of Pinot is amazing. Let's distill it to like concentrate a whole bunch of Pinot flavor. Yeah. But no one is interested in that. Like, sometimes you have to accept that that's just...
Well, there is something that people are interested in. There was a bunch of comments last night about the anchovies, talking about cat food, and this is just happenstance. This is pure happenstance, guys. So we just had to do this. Laurie yesterday was curious about this because Josh Picken brought on some of the most amazing. I think they were sardines. I don't think they were anchovies.
Okay, all right. Well, I've got the anchovies.
You got anchovies?
Yeah.
And I was talking about the cost of them, and I was like, "You're kidding me." Yeah. He brought on, look. Josh Picken, absolute champion, absolute gentleman of a man, has brought on some of the most decadent shit onto this show since we've started. He is, and of course, 2008 Penfolds Grange, as well as in the same episode, I believe, like a $20 packet of sardines.
Yeah.
$20 packet of sardines. I think it was only like 4 sardines in there. It's $5 per sardine. That's insane.
Yeah.
So you discovered this as well the other day.
Yeah.
There was a big difference in price, and of course it fueled a bit of, not a controversial thing, but there's the view that it is cat food. Yeah. I want to know, what have you found?
Well, the background story is that I had a day off last week and I went to Gaganis. So anyone that's in Adelaide knows Gaganis have amazing stuff, and you always buy things that you don't need, like massive jars of pickles.
Now, so for those who are interstate, Gaganis is basically a gigantic warehouse of food run by wogs.
Yeah, wholesale food.
And I mean that in the most endearing way. We love it.
And so I went there to, well, not even buy this, but this is what I've got. But I went there to buy ingredients to make gilders, which are like a Spanish tapas thing. It's like pickles with anchovies. And I couldn't find the anchovies, so I ended up going to Mercato, which is also in Adelaide, an Italian wholesale place. And there were a lot of anchovies to choose from, and they had the Ortiz, which is what Luke brought last night, and also what Josh brought, this brand. Now, they are $16 a tin. And
the tins, like, they are not big. They are, like, really not big.
They're really small. And then I got this other brand because I was like, well...
It's a phone. It's a tin.
I wanted to know... I wanted to know what the fuss is, because obviously the packaging is beautiful, and look, it could just be the packaging, like, because in the wine industry, people will make the same wine and put it in different packaging.
I don't think they've ever changed their packaging since 1891.
It's so cool.
It's awesome.
And then I got this brand, and that is $8. Still expensive, but it's $8.
So like two variants of the same thing. So we're gonna taste test the two different ones.
Yeah, because I want to know
like
if the Ortiz is...
And they're both in olive oil?
They're both in olive oil.
Well, firstly, the process of opening this tin is quite difficult.
Oh, this one was really easy.
Ah, you're paying for ease.
The presentation's better in the Ortiz, I reckon. Actually smells like cat food.
I tell you what, that does. That does, in comparison to that. That smells salty and briny, and that smells like cat food. Legitimate cat food.
This smells fresher though, like.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We'll show you guys this as well. I'll see if I can't get it. So this is the cheaper one, and this is the Exier one. Whoa, fuck it. We just put oil everywhere. So.
And we are not anchovy people. Generally.
Not usually.
We've just enjoyed them on the show when people have brought them on.
All right, going into the cheap one. Let's see how we go. Big.
And Luke did say that last night. He reckons it's to do with the size of the fillet. Is why you pay more for these.
I feel like a bit of a cat eating it, to be honest. It's like when you hear a cat eating, you hear that in your own mouth.
So salty.
You definitely do. The fillet's a lot smaller on the more expensive one. Do you know when you have a really, really shitty oyster and it's creamy?
Like too creamy. It doesn't have like the salty ocean flavour.
Yeah. The expensive one has the salty ocean flavour. And the
oh yeah, no, they are 100% different.
They are very, very, markedly different.
It feels like this one has been like cured in salt, and then they've almost maybe the olive oil is not as good, but they've tried to mask the flavour with heaps of salt.
Terry, I agree with you. Tastes like cat food. That actually is delicious. I owe you for a bunch of 4X gold. I'm determined to change the hearts and minds of the people on anchovies, because that's actually really good.
I was super skeptical. I actually didn't think they would be any different, and I was like, what a rip-off.
Is it similar to dine or whisk as? Love Mercato, you have to try the Andouille. Oh, fucking Andouille. Yeah,
oh, man.
Andouille is the bomb. Andouille is a spreadable sausage. I mean, who wouldn't like a spreadable sausage? So good. Oils ain't oils. And that's funny because like the oils are also markedly different. Like that is quite like that's decadent.
Yeah.
That's really, really fun. Certainly in terms of acidity. What would you pair with that? It'll have to be Fino, I think, like what we had last night.
Yeah, Fino last night was really good. Or like maybe Chacolly.
Ortiz is the best. We got a lot of love for Ortiz coming through on the. Should do an anchovy poll. It's quite divisive.
It is. And the other things that are divisive, which we see all the time in the wine industry, are coriander.
Yeah.
Coriander.
Who doesn't like coriander?
And
seriously,
also,
do you guys not like coriander?
Also, fennel, like licorice.
You don't like fennel. I mean, I like licorice, but you don't like fennel seed. I'm really.
You're very heavy-handed with fennel seed, but I meant it in reference to gin. Like we've made gins that have
aniseed,
higher aniseed than
licorice root. People read licorice root. We learned that was a bad thing to put on a label. Don't put it on there. It doesn't even taste like licorice. Justin Hess, I loved hearing Luke last night talk about service. Would love to have him working at our local Trust the Chef and good staff on service. I think service is the thing that makes or breaks. You could, and we had a great sort of, I guess, every time a guest comes up, we have a bit of a drink and a bit of a chat just to catch up, just to kind of ease the nerves and stuff like that. And we did talk about how Australia's gone down a really funny path where if you want to open up a venue, and I mean like a venue that makes a bit of noise, that really is going to be one of those hyper successful ones, quite often you will see that there is a price tag on that. That is a $500,000 fit out. That is a $500,000 fit out if you're lucky to get it cheaper than that. Quite often it could be as far as $1 million fit out. And I find this really odd because you go to places like Japan where they go, we can't afford that. We're going to get a bunch of furniture from IKEA and we're just going to scrub up the walls and leave them kind of rough and stuff like that. But they just focus on their service, and the service is utterly remarkable. And the product offering and the artistic
curation of the wine list.
And it could be a wine list with like literally 10 wines. It doesn't actually need to be that big. But you keep going there and you keep going there, and they rotate the wine list really often because there's a lot of intrigue and a lot of interest. But service is what it starts and finishes with. None of this, crap on, gold, like gilded fit outs and stuff like that. I'm quite, I get quite disappointed when I see a venue open up to such a grandiose nature of things sometimes, because I'm like, you don't actually need that. That said, some spaces do, some by necessity, and it's a beautiful thing to see. We have the guys at Lee Street Wine Room that for sure probably dropped that amount, if not more, but it's not gregarious.
Yeah.
It's not in your face. Well, it's actually quite subdued. They just turned a laundromat into one of the most amazing spaces I've ever been to, and that takes a lot of money. That just simply does. And
it's a little bit like wine. It's the first purchase is based on the label, but the second purchase is always based on the quality of the product. So maybe these fit outs are to get people in the door, and then service is what's going to keep people returning. Oh man, we've just become so divisive. Oh wow, it's like coriander. Terry's like big fan. Christina absolutely not on the coriander. Oh wow, no. Wow. Ruth and Gara's like, we're just suddenly the Unico Zealots private Facebook page is just going to be like just ruined. Yeah. Broken relationship. Hate licorice but love fennel. Bit weird. Karen, thanks for chiming in, mate. Great to hear from you. Good lighting can make a place totally blue. Yeah. Service is what got us into wine, and I'm really glad for that, because I think that's the crux of what we're meant to do. Love coriander too, or Unico. If you find Catalina brand in the market somewhere, or a Spanish product from Cantabria and sea north of Spain, even more delicious. Alessandro. Ooh, more delicious than Ortiz. Cool. More delicious. Okay. I bet. Look, I have never been to Spain, but I wonder if we're like the Australian. This is probably like... This is the 4x goal. Yeah, I know. Of anchovies. And we're going to go over to Spain. Ooh, it's gourmet. Next year, maybe. And then we'll find out that they're actually just like the cheap... I know, the cheap, terrible things. Well, Mike Felsman, how about Vietnamese mint? Isn't that Vietnamese mint? Is that Gap Pao in Thailand? No. It's different. No, that's Thai basil. Vietnamese mint is the really long. I love it. A long leaf. Vietnamese mint is one of the coolest mints. You can just eat. You know, especially for like fur. Of course, why wouldn't you? Anyway, guys. That is Sunday. Thank you so much for chiming in, of course, and just all the great comments. Like, this is one of the most active Sundays that we've ever actually had, I have to admit. Guys, thank you so much, and of course, we'll be back tomorrow. And I'll give you guys a bit of a sneak preview on who's coming on tomorrow. We have Kayla, Andre, and Selena from Bondar. We have Rose Kentish this week, Lena Berry. Oh, we have Chester Osborne from Darrenberg, the Chester Osborne, coming in. We are, and of course, we're talking to a few people for Saturday at the moment. But guys, thank you so much for chiming in. Of course, for
the amazing support. And I guess, yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow. Same